Imagine a moment that sends literal chills down your spine. Meghan Markle, a woman whose name has long been synonymous with scandal and controversy, commits an act that shocks even the most cynical observers. Paris, the city of lights, glamour, and memories, and a tunnel where Princess Diana's life ended forever. It is here, 28 years after the tragedy, that Meghan decides to come. But she doesn't just pass by. She does something that even seasoned royal commentators have deemed unforgivable. What drove the Duchess of Montecito to this step? A desperate desire to regain her former glory, or a cold-blooded calculation turning someone else's death into content for social media? Meghan Markle has just committed perhaps the most unforgivable act of her post-royal career. During a recent visit to Paris, she seemingly intentionally filmed herself driving past the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the exact spot where Princess Diana died in 1997. And she didn't just drive by silently. She documented it, posted the footage online, and made sure the whole world knew where she was. The reaction was swift, brutal, and entirely justified. Prince William is reportedly furious. Sources close to the palace report that he is barely containing his anger over what he considers a calculated exploitation of his mother's death. This was not an innocent mistake or an unfortunate coincidence. Meghan knew exactly what she was doing when she set up the camera, shot that footage, and shared it with her millions of followers. The message was clear, the symmetry deliberate, the manipulation transparent. Royal commentators are calling it monstrous. Critics are calling it disaster tourism. Even some of Meghan's most loyal defenders are struggling to frame this as acceptable behavior. Because how can you possibly justify what appears to be using the sight of your husband's mother's tragic death as a backdrop for your Paris Fashion Week content? How can you rationalize what many see as turning that tunnel into a personal photo opportunity? Insiders claim that Harry has been manipulated through the memory of his mother from the very beginning. Years ago, reports surfaced that Meghan wore Diana's favorite perfume on their first date, a move designed to tap into his deepest emotional wounds and create an instant, artificial bond. She constantly compared herself to Diana, positioned herself as Diana's successor, and used Harry's grief to control him. But this crosses all conceivable boundaries. The timing makes it even more disturbing. Harry has spent years railing against the paparazzi, blaming them for his mother's death, claiming that media harassment killed her. Yet here is his wife willingly engaging with photographers in the very city where Diana died, filming herself near the tunnel, and treating the whole thing like content creation. The hypocrisy is staggering. The callousness is breathtaking. What kind of person does this to someone they claim to love? What kind of wife drags her husband's deepest trauma into her own desperate attempt to reclaim Fashion Week relevance? Royal insiders are whispering that Meghan genuinely believed this would make her look connected to Diana, that it would somehow enhance her mystique and draw comparisons between the two women. Instead, it has exposed her as someone willing to exploit tragedy for attention, someone so consumed by her own image that she will use her husband's dead mother as a prop. Palace sources made their position abundantly clear when asked about Harry's security demands and claims of harassment. Their response was brutal in its simplicity. Stay in California. The message was unmistakable. Nobody wants them back. Nobody is impressed by these stunts. And this Parisian debacle has only proven why the royal family wants nothing to do with Meghan Markle ever again. Meghan Markle wanted Paris Fashion Week to be her grand reinvention, her triumphant return to the spotlight after months of career disasters and public humiliation. Instead, it's become yet another masterclass in how not to behave at a high-profile event. From the moment she arrived, everything about her presence screamed desperation. From the bizarre outfits to the awkward social interactions that went viral for all the wrong reasons. Let's talk about that Balenciaga dress. Critics immediately dubbed it the toilet paper dress. And frankly, that description is generous. The 150 creation swallowed her petite frame in waves of voluminous fabric, making her look less like a style icon and more like someone playing dress-up in their mom's curtains. She was drowning in the material, stumbling through Paris like a child who'd raided the dressing-up box. But the outfit was just the beginning of the disaster. Footage emerged of Meghan attempting to kiss Balenciaga's head creative director, and the awkwardness was excruciating. They practically face-planted in such an embarrassing moment that even casual observers could see that there was no genuine connection between them. This wasn't a designer greeting his muse at a show. This was two strangers forced to be near each other as part of some arrangement that got Meghan a front row seat. Here's what that whole charade reveals. The creative director doesn't even follow Meghan on Instagram. If she were truly some pivotal figure in his creative vision, if she mattered to him in any way beyond this single event, he would be following her every move online. Designers obsessively track their true muses. They engage with their work, their content, their aesthetic. But this guy, complete silence, not a single account associated with Meghan followed. The relationship is purely transactional, and the world can see it. Then came the moment that revealed just how unwelcome Meghan truly was in these elite circles. Actress Kristen Scott Thomas, elegant and known for her pro-monarchy stance, completely blanked her. Meghan attempted to insert herself into a conversation that Kristen was having with someone else, and the British icon simply refused to acknowledge her existence. No polite smile, no acknowledgement, nothing. Just cold, deliberate ignoring that spoke volumes about how genuine high society views the Duchess of Montecito. Meghan's response to all of this is that bizarre facial expression that she maintained throughout the event. Royal watchers have dubbed it the dislocated jaw, her mouth slightly agape in what she apparently believes is a sultry, seductive gaze. Instead, she resembled someone practicing their best Zoolander impression, simultaneously sucking in her cheeks so hard that it looked like she'd swallowed a life raft. It was theatrical, artificial, and deeply uncomfortable to watch. Sources say that Balenciaga paid for everything: the flights, the hotel, the entire trip. Meghan didn't invest a single dollar of her own money into this appearance. She was, in essence, a hired prop, brought in for whatever publicity value she could generate, and the fashion house got exactly what they paid for. Headlines, scandal, and a front-row spectacle that had nothing to do with the clothes and everything to do with the walking disaster wearing them. Medical experts are sharing their professional opinions about what royal watchers have suspected for months. Meghan Markle may have undergone extensive cosmetic surgery, the timing of which was seemingly deliberately timed to coincide with her recent disappearance from the public eye. Two doctors on different sides of the Atlantic have analyzed her publicly available before and after photos, offering their expert assessments. Their conclusions are strikingly similar. According to these professionals, this wasn't subtle enhancement. This was potentially a complete facial overhaul. Dr. Johnny Betteridge, based in London, didn't mince words when he surveyed photos from 5 years ago compared to her recent appearance in Paris. At 39, Meghan's features were softer. Now, at 44, her face appears noticeably more sculpted, more lifted, and paradoxically, younger despite the passing of time. Weight loss alone cannot account for the dramatic changes visible in her facial structure. The procedures that Dr. Betteridge believes she may have undergone include upper and lower blepharoplasty, commonly known as eyelid surgery. Her upper eyelids appear more visible, more open than before. The skin around her under-eye area appears significantly reduced, creating a more lifted, refreshed look. But the visible changes don't end there. Dr. Betteridge believes she may have undergone a full facelift and neck lift, pointing to what he sees as changes in her tragus and the way her earlobe now attaches to her face in a different position than just a few years ago. Dr. Jennifer Armstrong, based in California, offered an even more detailed analysis. She immediately noticed that Meghan's eye shape has shifted from round to more almond-shaped, almost feline in recent photos. This change is thanks to filler strategically placed under the eye, which pushes the tissue upward and alters the entire appearance of her gaze. It's a technique that creates a more exotic, dramatic look, but one that can look unnatural if overdone. Dr. Armstrong believes the evidence for a rhinoplasty is compelling. Meghan's nose was wider in earlier photos, less defined, and the structure changed as it moved down her face. Now it looks narrow along its entire length, more structured, more refined. The before and after comparison leads Dr. Armstrong to conclude that she likely underwent a rhinoplasty that completely reshaped her nasal profile. Moving down the face, both doctors noted a significant amount of filler in her cheeks, creating definition that simply wasn't there in older photographs. Her lips show evidence of a lip lift, shortening the distance between her nose and her upper lip, as well as the use of lip filler to increase volume and showcase more of the pink tissue. The transformation continues all the way down to her chin, which has changed from narrow and pointed to noticeably wider and more square. Royal expert Angela Levin didn't hesitate when asked about the surgery speculation. "Of course she's had it," Angela stated plainly. "Meghan has never admitted to any procedures, but the changes speak for themselves." She pointed to the obvious dental work, the disappearance of gaps in her teeth, and the flawless skin that has replaced her former freckled complexion. This is a woman who will go to any lengths to achieve the image she believes she deserves. The question everyone is now asking: was this surgical overhaul part of a desperate plan to reinvent herself before the Paris launch? Did she disappear for months specifically to recover from these procedures? Just as the internet exploded with outrage over Meghan's exploitation of the Diana Tunnel, Prince Harry suddenly leaked a story to one of his favorite British outlets. He claimed that a female stalker had approached him not once, but twice during his recent visit to London when he reunited with King Charles. The timing was so suspiciously convenient that even casual observers could see the manufactured drama. Palace sources didn't hesitate to respond with a level of harshness that left no room for interpretation. Their message to Harry: "Stay in California. Problem solved. No stalker problems if you just stay where you are." The dismissive tone spoke volumes about how the royal family views Harry's endless security demands and his constant attempts to get the government to provide him with taxpayer-funded protection. But here's what makes the story even more interesting. The internet quickly figured out who the so-called stalker is. A black woman who appears to be a devoted member of the Sussex Squad, someone who has traveled the world following Harry to various events. She's not a dangerous threat. She's a superfan, obsessive certainly. But there's no evidence of violence or actual danger in her history. Royal commentators immediately pointed out the cruel irony. Harry and Meghan have actively encouraged the Sussex Squad for years, despite the vile attacks these people perpetrate against anyone who dares to criticize their idols. The squad harasses and doxes critics online and at their homes, contacts people's employers with false allegations, makes false calls to the police to send officers to the addresses of innocent people, and even weaponizes critics' children's photos and school information. Countless royal watchers have been attacked, doxed, and threatened by these individuals. Angela Levin has faced horrific messages threatening rape and murder. Others have had relatives harassed, workplaces contacted, their personal information spread online. And throughout it all, Harry and Meghan have said nothing. They have never condemned the squad's behavior. They have never asked them to stop. Many believe they have actively encouraged it. So the fact that one of their own supporters is now allegedly stalking Harry is what some are calling toxic karma coming full circle. You encourage the mob, you weaponize obsessive fans, and eventually that obsession becomes inconvenient even for you. But many royal insiders aren't convinced that this stalking situation is real at all. They suspect that Harry fabricated or at least exaggerated the entire story for two very specific purposes. First, he is still desperate for state-funded security. He has been fighting this battle for years, trying to get British taxpayers to foot the bill for his protection, despite the fact that he gave up his royal duties and moved to California. This stalker story gives him a pretext to claim that he is in real danger whenever he returns to the UK. Second, and perhaps more importantly, he needed to distract from the horrific headlines about Meghan's behavior in Paris. The footage from the Diana Tunnel was dominating all the royal news cycles, and the reaction was brutal. Suddenly dropping a stalker story shifts the narrative, makes Harry look like the victim, and gives the media something else to discuss besides the monstrous exploitation of him by his mother and his wife. Palace insiders don't believe it. The public doesn't believe it either, and the message remains clear: stay in California. Those carefully selected photos that Meghan released from her Paris trip, the ones where she's laughing with friends in the back of a car, weren't genuine moments of friendship that she wanted everyone to believe. Royal insiders confirm what many suspected from the start. Those weren't friends. Those were employees. Paying staff, positioned to make Meghan look popular, relatable, and socially connected. Her hairstylist, Daniel, was prominently featured in the shots, and he immediately rushed online to gush about what a triumph Paris was. He walked his followers through every product he used on Meghan, every technique he employed, calling it a major win. But here's the reality. Daniel is on the payroll. He's not her friend. He's her employee, contractually obligated to make her look good, both literally and figuratively. The sad truth is that Meghan Markle no longer has any real friends. She has people she pays to be around her. people who are financially dependent on her and therefore can't afford to tell her the truth. They can't warn her when she's about to make a fool of herself. They can't suggest that perhaps driving past the death tunnel of Diana and publishing the footage is a monumentally bad idea. They just smile, nod, and collect their checks. What happened to all the genuine friendships? They're gone, vanished, discarded the moment they ceased to be useful. Jessica Mulroney was once considered Meghan's closest confidant, the person who supported her through the royal wedding and the early days of her marriage. Then Jessica made one misstep, got caught in a social media scandal, and Meghan dropped her instantly. No loyalty, no second chances, no compassion for a person who had shown her nothing but support. Tyler Perry opened his home to Harry and Meghan when they first fled to California. He provided them with security, refuge, and friendship during what they called their darkest hour. He publicly defended them, called Meghan a princess on social media, and positioned himself as their protector. Yet, reports now suggest that the relationship has significantly cooled. Once Tyler served his purpose, once they secured their Montecito mansion and no longer needed his generosity, the connection vanished. The pattern is undeniable. Meghan uses people until they cease to be valuable to her brand, her image, or her immediate needs. Then she discards them completely, cutting them out of her life as if they never existed. It's happened so many times that it can't be chalked up to coincidence or misunderstanding. It's a deliberate pattern of behavior, a calculated approach to relationships that treats people as disposable resources. So, when you see those photos of Meghan surrounded by smiling faces in Paris, remember what you're really looking at. You're seeing paid employees doing their jobs. You're seeing people who can't financially afford to cross her or tell her an uncomfortable truth. You're seeing an artificial construct of friendship, bought and performed for the cameras. Real friends, the kind who challenge you and hold you accountable, Meghan Markle no longer has. She alienated them all years ago. Nikki Eade finally broke his silence, and his story confirms everything royal watchers have known about Meghan Markle for years. The London socialite, who introduced her to high society, who opened doors she never could have accessed on her own, has now publicly confessed that she ghosted him once he ceased to be useful. And most heartbreakingly, he's still too afraid of her to tell the full truth. Nick was Meghan's golden ticket into the elite circles of London long before Prince Harry came along. He took her to the Global Gift Gala in 2014, where she mingled with celebrities like Lizzie Cundy and Eva Longoria. He took her clothes shopping, introduced her to modeling agents, and essentially inducted her into the world she desperately wanted to be a part of. He made her feel special, made her feel like she belonged. "We texted quite a lot," Nick revealed in a recent interview. Even after she started dating Harry, she was still texting him, keeping up that connection. But then something changed. "After a while, we sort of faded away," he said. His language was carefully sanitized. The reality was far more brutal than his polite phrasing. She didn't gradually drift away. She completely, coldly cut him off the moment she secured her prince. Royal expert Angela Levin spoke at length with Nick about what really happened, and she paints a very different picture than his public statements. "He was in a terrible state," Angela revealed. "He was absolutely heartbroken." This wasn't just about disappointment that a friend had moved on. Nick felt used, discarded, devastated by the way Meghan had completely erased him from her life after everything he had done for her. The contrast between his private pain and his public comments is striking. On a royal podcast where he discussed Meghan, Nick packaged everything nicely, presenting their relationship as a natural evolution where people simply moved in different directions. But Angela saw right through it. "Why is he wrapping it all up so nicely now?" she asked. The answer is simple and chilling. He's frightened of her. "A lot of people are very frightened of her," Angela explained. "They think she's powerful, she's got money, that her nastiness knows no bounds." Nick himself witnessed what Meghan did with the Diana Tunnel stunt. He knows what she's capable of. He understands that the full truth about how she treated him could make him a target for the Sussex Squad, could bring harassment and threats down upon him. So he sanitizes his story. He pretends it was mutual, amicable, just two people naturally drifting apart. But the pain Angela described tells the real story. Nick Eade gave Meghan access to a world she couldn't have entered without him. He invested time, energy, and genuine care in helping her establish herself in London, and she repaid him by completely ghosting him the moment she got her prince. He joins a growing list: Jessica Mulroney, Tyler Perry, Piers Morgan, and countless others who have learned the hard way that Meghan Markle sees people as stepping stones, not as human beings worthy of loyalty or gratitude. Meghan Markle doesn't just ghost people she doesn't like. She uses an army of obsessed online supporters to destroy them. The Sussex Squad has become one of the most toxic and vicious groups on the internet, launching coordinated harassment campaigns against anyone who dares to criticize their idol. And the evidence suggests that Meghan not only knows about it, but actively encourages it. Royal commentator Angela Levin has experienced the squad's cruelty firsthand. They sent her horrifying messages threatening violence of the most disturbing nature. They claimed that all her friends were disgusting far-right extremists and Nazis. Angela is Jewish, which makes the Nazi accusations particularly vile and absurd. But facts don't matter to the squad. They simply use any weapon they think will cause maximum pain and intimidation. The harassment goes far beyond unpleasant social media messages. Reports indicate that the squad has contacted people's employers with fabricated allegations, made false reports to the authorities, and posted personal information online. They have even reportedly attacked family members and children of critics, crossing every conceivable ethical line in their attempts to intimidate and silence anyone who dares to speak out against Meghan. Austin Lee Moore, a content creator with a comparatively modest audience, shared his own experience with the squad's attacks. He explained how Meghan employs influencers whose entire online presence revolves around worshipping her, and these paid accounts then attack other pages like guard dogs. In some cases, these are bots, he explained, but there are also real people who will come at you with a coordinated harassment. The most disturbing detail Austin revealed, he claims that Meghan views the Instagram stories of people who attack her critics. One squad member who harassed Austin publicly bragged that Meghan had viewed his content. And according to Austin, Meghan's account was consistently one of the first to view his stories. If she's really all about peace and finding her zen, as she claims, Austin asked, why would she monitor the people who are bullying others on her behalf? The answer is obvious to anyone paying attention. She doesn't just know about the harassment. She monitors it, tracks it, perhaps even directs it. The squad doesn't operate independently. They are following the lead of Meghan and Harry, and they have never once been told to stop. Not one statement condemning the behavior. Not one plea for civility or restraint, only silence, which the squad correctly interprets as endorsement. Royal watchers have documented countless instances of this abuse, yet the mainstream media refuses to cover it. The narrative around Meghan is carefully controlled. She's a victim, always a victim, constantly under attack by racist trolls and vicious commentators. But the reality is the exact opposite. She has an army at her command. An army that terrorizes innocent people whose only crime is expressing opinions she didn't like. And here's the sickest irony of all. This week, Meghan and Harry will receive a humanitarian award for their work combating online bullying through their parents' network. Let that sink in for a moment. These two individuals who have weaponized online bullying against countless critics, who have never once condemned the vicious attacks carried out by the Sussex Squad, are being honored as champions for child safety and digital well-being. The audacity is simply staggering. Buckingham Palace reportedly has a dossier documenting Meghan's bullying of royal staff. Several employees came forward with complaints about her behavior, describing a toxic work environment and treatment so harsh that some were left in tears. The palace took these allegations seriously enough to launch an investigation. However, the findings were never made public. But that dossier exists somewhere. A permanent record of Meghan's alleged cruelty toward the people who worked for her. Yet, she's receiving awards for fighting bullying. The cognitive dissonance would be laughable if it weren't so offensive to actual victims of bullying. Royal commentators have pointed out that any organization willing to give these two an award for fighting online bullying clearly hasn't done even the most basic research into their history. Or worse, they simply don't care about the hypocrisy because any publicity is good publicity. This isn't the first time Harry has received an award he absolutely didn't deserve. Remember the Pat Tillman Award? Pat Tillman was an American hero, an NFL player who gave up fame and fortune to enlist in the Army after 9/11. He died by friendly fire while serving his country. He sacrificed everything for a cause he believed in. Even Pat Tillman's mother publicly stated that she disagreed with Harry receiving that award, but Harry still showed up. He went on stage, accepted the award with a smile, and never once acknowledged how grotesquely inappropriate it was to compare his life to Pat Tillman's sacrifice. Harry left his royal duties. He abandoned his family. He moved to California and spent years complaining about how difficult his privileged life was. That's not heroism. That's not sacrifice. It's the exact opposite. The same pattern applies to this mental health and humanitarian award. What have Harry and Meghan actually achieved in the fight against online bullying? They launched a parents' network that seems to exist primarily in press releases. They give speeches about digital well-being while their own supporters terrorize people all over the internet. They position themselves as protectors of vulnerable children while Meghan sits front row at Balenciaga shows. The awards keep coming because Harry and Meghan have mastered the art of performative activism. They say the right words. They align themselves with trendy causes. They show up looking somber and concerned while the cameras flash. But when you investigate their actual behavior, their real-world impact, there's nothing there. Just empty gestures, empty statements, and a growing list of people they've hurt. This award is a mockery of everyone who is actually working to protect children online. It's an insult to victims of bullying, and it proves that some organizations care more about celebrity presence than about actual integrity. At Kevin Costner's charity event a few weeks ago, something shifted, and body language experts haven't stopped talking about it. Harry was on stage, having his moment when Meghan, apparently against his express instructions, walked up to him. He had his back to her. She tapped him on the shoulder, and when he turned around, his face didn't display affection or a greeting. It was something closer to shock, perhaps even horror, like a man waking from a year-long nightmare, suddenly realizing where he is. That moment, combined with the exploitation of the Paris tunnel, is making royal watchers wonder if Harry is finally reaching his breaking point. Is he finally seeing what the rest of the world has known for years? That he's been isolated, manipulated, and controlled by someone who is willing to exploit his mother's death for attention? Or is this just another false hope, another fleeting moment of clarity that will vanish as soon as Meghan reasserts control? Royal biographer Sally Bedell-Smith has explained that Diana suffered from paranoia of rejection and abandonment because her mother left when she was little. Harry clearly inherited the same trauma, constantly talking about feeling abandoned, the loss of his mother, and not having a father in the way that he wanted. This psychological wound makes him particularly vulnerable to manipulation. He's so terrified of losing Meghan the way he lost everyone else that she gets away with everything. 50% of his isolation is the consequences of his own deck. Prince William no longer speaks to him because Harry publicly betrayed him, sold family secrets for profit, and chose Meghan over all the relationships he ever valued. His old friends are gone, literally moved away, and didn't send new addresses to Montecito. Harry has been seen wandering around London hungover, ringing doorbells, trying to find people who have made it clear they want nothing to do with him. This is what manipulators do. They isolate their victims. Meghan has systematically cut Harry off from all of his family of origin, from his sense of purpose, from what gave his life meaning and dimension. She stripped him of all support systems until she became his whole world. And now he's locked in Montecito with paid staff pretending to be friends, and a wife who just drove past the tunnel where his mother died to film content for Instagram. Royal insiders have seen this kind of dynamic play out before. It can take years, sometimes decades, but eventually the isolated spouse reaches a boiling point where they just can't live with it anymore. They can't take another day of manipulation, control, exploitation, and when that moment comes, they leave. It doesn't matter if they have anywhere to go or anyone waiting for them. Anything is better than staying. Has Harry reached that point? The evidence remains unclear. That look at the Costner event suggested something inside him had broken. The Paris tunnel stunt should have been unforgivable if he had any respect left for his mother's memory, but he's still there, still standing by her side, still allowing his trauma to be weaponized against his own family. Until Harry finds what Meghan took from him, his courage, his independence, his self-awareness, he remains trapped, helplessly watching his mother become nothing more than a prop in his wife's endless spectacle.